The global music industry is a machine, a multi-billion-dollar behemoth built on formulas and algorithms. It loves to categorize artists, putting them in neat, marketable boxes. This is pop, this is rock, this is K-pop. Each box has a pre-approved marketing plan, established distribution channels, and a target audience that's been studied for decades. The machine is designed for one thing: predictable profit. But every once in a while, something shows up that the machine just wasn't built for. Something that defies its categories and breaks its formula.
When I first started researching this, what shocked me wasn't SB19's talent. We all know that already. But how clearly the industry system just wasn't designed for artists like them. And once you see that, you can't unsee it anymore.
So, what happens when a group emerges that's a glitch in this carefully constructed matrix? A group so unique that the industry's formulas fail. Not because the group is flawed, but because the system itself is too rigid to see what's right in front of it. SB19 was that glitch. But this isn't a story about their failure to fit in. It's the story of the industry's failure to keep up with them. It's the story of how 5 artists from the Philippines, through sheer force of will, exposed the cracks in a global system that thought it had the whole world figured out.
This part really hits me because SB19's story isn't just about music. It feels like something a lot of us can relate to. Being misunderstood, boxed in, or overlooked simply because we don't fit someone else's idea of normal success.
To get why major labels were so perplexed by SB19, you have to understand the silos they work in. For years, the industry had 2 separate playbooks for pop in Asia. On one side, you had the K-pop model, a hyper-polished, high-investment system famous for its intense training and flawless choreography, all engineered for global export. It's an assembly line of excellence, and the world knows exactly what to expect. On the other side was OPM, or Original Filipino Music. For decades, OPM thrived on raw, unfiltered emotion, with soulful ballads and love songs defining its sound. It was deeply tied to its local culture, language, and audience. But its infrastructure was built mainly for a domestic crowd. Then, SB19 arrived. They officially debuted on October 26, 2018, with a ballad called Tilaluha. And right away, the industry's categorization engine started to spark and smoke. At a glance, they looked like they belonged in the K-pop box. They went through the same grueling K-pop-style training, with workdays stretching over 9 hours, covering everything from vocal stability to intense choreography. The knee-jerk reaction from critics was dismissive. They were just K-pop copycats. This wasn't a real critique. It was the industry's default setting when it couldn't classify something. Slapping on a familiar label was easier than actually paying attention. But the K-pop comparison was a trap. It set an expectation that SB19 would follow the K-pop formula to a T, using English hooks or Korean production for global appeal. Instead, SB19 deliberately broke that mold. They chose to write and perform their most important songs in Filipino. This wasn't a mistake. It was a statement of identity. But for major labels, whose global strategy relied on English, a group aiming for international stages while singing in Tagalog was a puzzle they couldn't solve. So, they tried the other box, OPM. That didn't fit either. Mainstream OPM was dominated by romance. SB19, however, was writing about parental sacrifice in MAPA, mental health in ELAW, and national pride in WHAT. They were bringing a thematic depth to pop that was more common in Filipino rock or indie scenes. This should have been seen as innovation. But for an industry used to marketing OPM with a time-tested love song formula, it was just confusing. They had no playlist, no radio format, and no campaign ready for a Filipino pop group that sang with the fire of social commentary and the vulnerability of a family diary. They were a categorical anomaly. Not K-pop, not traditional OPM, but a hybrid with the discipline of one and the soul of the other. They didn't fit in any box, and because of that, major labels had no formula to sell them.
Honestly, this is where I think the industry made its biggest mistake. Instead of asking, why are they different? They keep asking, which box do they belong in? And when the answer was none, they stopped paying attention.
The industry's confusion was made worse by a deep-seated skepticism. In the mid-2010s, P-pop was often dismissed as derivative, and SB19's K-pop-style training initially reinforced this bias. To many industry insiders, this intense system wasn't a sign of discipline. It was a sign of inauthenticity. It fed a narrative that they were just puppets, assembled by a Korean company to copy a foreign success model. This created a massive first impression bias. Labels made their early judgments based on this manufactured group story, using it as an excuse to look away and focus on talent that fit more familiar, organic molds. They saw the polish and assumed there was no substance. They saw the training and mistook it for a lack of agency. What they failed to see was the truth of their journey. This wasn't a group of recruits handed a concept. This was a group of artists sharpening their skills to a world-class level to execute their own vision. The training wasn't the end product. It was them forging the tools they'd need to build their own empire. And then, in 2023, they shattered the manufactured narrative to pieces. SB19 announced they were leaving their management company, ShowBT Philippines, and launching their very own label, 1Z Entertainment. This was a seismic move. Pablo, the group's leader, became the CEO. Justin took a lead role in creative direction. They took total control of their music, their brand, and their future. This wasn't just a business decision. It was the ultimate act of self-determination. It was definitive proof they were never puppets. They were the visionaries. As Pablo said, their goal with 1Z was to challenge everything that we see in the industry and have a sanctuary where they could be hands-on with their future. They weren't just artists anymore. They were entrepreneurs. This move should have flipped the industry's perception. But for many major labels, it was too late. By the time SB19 proved their fierce independence by literally becoming their own bosses, the industry's gatekeepers had already moved on. The glitch in the matrix had just rewritten its own code, and the old machine was too slow to even notice.
This part personally frustrates me because discipline was used against them. The very thing that shouldn't been proof of seriousness and commitment was twisted into a narrative of being manufactured, when in reality, SB19 was working harder than most artists ever will.
While the major labels were busy trying to figure out which box to put SB19 in, something else was happening. A force that the industry couldn't predict or control was about to make their entire gatekeeping system obsolete. The moment that lit the fuse wasn't a big-budget music video or a TV debut. It was a dance practice video. In 2019, a fan-shared clip of their rehearsal for the song Go Up started spreading like wildfire on social media. No flashy effects, no elaborate sets, just 5 guys in a dance studio, moving with a precision and power that was simply undeniable. It was raw, unfiltered, and breathtakingly good. That video going viral was the system override. It proved that you don't need a label's permission to be seen, you just need to be exceptional. SB19's talent bypassed the traditional gatekeepers, the executives, the radio programmers, the TV producers, and went straight to the people. And the people responded. This is where the second pillar of their power emerged. Their fan base, 18. And calling A10 a fan base is a massive understatement. They became an active, organized partner in SB19's rise. They weren't just consumers. They were promoters, defenders, and community builders. They organized streaming parties, coordinated hashtag campaigns that trended globally, and evangelized the group's music with a passion no marketing budget could ever buy. This exposed a huge flaw in the major labels' strategy. Their empires were built on controlling distribution through radio and TV. Social media was often just seen as a marketing add-on, not the main engine for a breakthrough. SB19 and A10 proved that model was ancient history. Their success wasn't happening on the channels the labels controlled, it was happening on YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok, where their collective views would eventually soar. The bond between SB19 and A10 created a self-sustaining ecosystem of success that left the majors on the outside looking in. The labels couldn't copy it because it wasn't built on money. It was built on a real connection. The group poured their struggles into their music, and A10 saw their own dreams in that story. They shared a common goal: to raise the Filipino flag on the world stage. The Go Up phenomenon, powered by A10, was more than a viral moment. It was proof of a new way to build a career, one where talent could break through organically. A dedicated community could be more powerful than a corporate marketing department, and the old gatekeepers no longer held all the keys.
And this is where everything changes for me. The go up moments prove something powerful, that talent plus consistency can still beat gatekeeping. No meetings, no approvals, just skill meeting the right moment.
Now, fully in control with One Zed Entertainment, SB19 was free to double down on the one thing the industry can't manufacture: their authenticity. Creative independence wasn't just a perk, it became their new formula. Free from the pressure to water down their identity for global appeal, they did the opposite. They infused their Filipino identity more deeply into their music than ever before. And here's where they proved all the conventional wisdom wrong. Cultural specificity wasn't a barrier. It was a superpower. Take Mapa, a tribute to parents, Ma and Pa. The song is so rooted in Filipino family values that it became a cultural anthem, a modern folk song that resonated worldwide because the love for one's parents is a universal emotion, even if the language isn't. Then came Gento. The title is a play on the Filipino word ganito, meaning like this, but also winks at the word for gold, ginto. The song is a masterclass in lyrical wordplay, a brash anthem about hard-earned success, packed with Filipino slang. It exploded into a global TikTok dance craze, not despite its Filipino-ness, but because of it. The world didn't need to understand every word to feel the energy and the triumph. The market adapted to them. This creative freedom, combined with their global reach, created a paradox. Without a major international label, SB19 started charting on Billboard. They became the first Filipino and Southeast Asian act nominated for a Billboard Music Award for Top Social Artist. They were the first Southeast Asian act to crack the top 10 of Billboard's Social 50 chart. Then, they started topping charts. In 2025, their single Damn became the first song by a Filipino act in history to debut at #1 on Billboard's World Digital Song Sales Chart. Songs like Gento, Dunka, and their collaboration with Sarah Geronimo, Uma Ligid, also entered the chart. By the end of that year, they were sweeping domestic awards, taking home a staggering 15 trophies at the P-POP Music Awards and another 6 at the inaugural Filipino Music Awards, including Artist of the Year at both. Each achievement should have been a flashing neon sign for major labels screaming massive commercial potential. But their success was so independent, so self-generated, that the labels struggled to see where they could even fit in. How do you market a group that's already built its own global marketing machine? How do you distribute a group that has already found its own path to its fans? SB19 had already done what labels promised to do for artists, but they did it on their own terms, with their own culture front and center. They didn't just find a new path to success, they became the path.
This is my favorite part of the entire story because SB19 didn't simplify themselves for the world. They trusted that the world would catch up, and somehow, that gambles paid off in ways that industry never predicted.
In the end, the story of why major labels didn't know what to do with SB19 isn't a tragedy. It's a triumph. It's a case study in the music industry's failure of imagination. The system was category blind, unable to recognize trailblazers who walked between worlds. Its old-school tools were useless in a new-school reality, and its obsession with authenticity ironically caused it to dismiss disciplined artists as manufactured, only to be proven spectacularly wrong. By the time the industry started to catch on, SB19 didn't need them anymore. The lack of early support wasn't a setback. It was a blessing in disguise. It forced them to become more than just performers. It forced them to become visionaries, entrepreneurs, and masters of their own destiny. SB19 was a shock to the system because they weren't just a new sound. They were a new model. A model built on world-class discipline, unapologetic cultural identity, and a powerful symbiotic partnership with a global community. They proved that you don't need to be assimilated to be successful. You don't need to erase your roots to grow global branches. You don't need to fit into the industry's neat little boxes to change the game. SB19 didn't just find success. They redefined it. Their legacy isn't just in the chart-topping songs or the sold-out arenas. It's in the blueprint they created for every artist who has ever been told they don't fit. They are living proof that sometimes the most powerful thing you can be is a glitch in the matrix.
When you step back and look at the full picture, SB19's journey feels like less like an exemption and more like a warning to an industry that refuses to evolve. They didn't break the rules, they showed how updated the rules already were.
What moment in SB19's journey inspires you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the artists who are breaking the mold.
I've genuinely loved to know what part of SB19's journey connected to you the most, because chances are there are a piece of your own story in there